Hello and welcome to the Botanica and Bloom channel. I am Megan, I'm the owner of Botanica and Bloom. Botanica and Bloom is a boutique floral design company located here in Victoria, BC. When I'm not designing floral art, I love to talk about all things lifestyle. Today I want to walk you through a DIY that I recently did on our rental home here in Victoria. One of the things people think about rentals is that there's not a lot that you can do to make the space seem yours. For us, we want to live in a cozy home that doesn't feel like it's a rental home. With the prices of homes soaring in Victoria, we wanted to make sure that since we're going to be here for a while, it was somewhere that reflected us, who we are as a couple, and something that makes us feel cozy at home and in love. So the project I'm about to show you is done with peel and stick wallpaper, a mantle that I made, which I made to look like rustic reclaimed wood. We purchased a wall-mounted fireplace, which works perfect in our space. Everything can come back off the wall, and it's an easy fix for when we leave. I'm going to walk you through the DIY and how I put everything up, as well as some tips and tricks that I learned along the way and what I would do differently next time. If you're watching us for the first time today, that you subscribe and like this video. We have a lot more lifestyle content to come, as well as some florally designed based things. First thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your wallpaper is level so that when you start to unroll it, it's straight on your wall. Unroll just a little bit at a time and use a credit card or a plastic scraper to flatten out any kinks. You might get some air bubbles during this, so make sure that you get them out with the credit card or plastic scraper at this time too. Continue all the way down until you've reached the bottom of the wall. When you get to the bottom, use your credit card to make sure that your wallpaper is really tightly secured against the wall and the trim. Use the edge of the credit card in the corner of where the wall and the trim meet. Use an X-Acto knife. When you start the second panel, if you have a pattern that needs to be lined up, make sure you're paying attention to that. My wallpaper didn't need to be lined up, so I was only mindful of where I placed it on the wall and made sure that it was straight and level. Because my wallpaper was 20 inches wide and I didn't want my panel on the wall to be 60 inches wide, I only wanted it to be 4 feet. I started on the two outer edges. I actually layered the middle panel over top of the other two. It's not entirely ideal, but it was easier than trying to cut the panel all the way down lengthwise and getting that straight. I made my cuts using a circular saw. As you'll see later in my tips and tricks, I wouldn't have chosen the circular saw if I was to do this again. To get the reclaimed look, I used a hand planer to create different dents and textures in the piece of wood. The edge of the wood to create a rounded edge, which made it look older than the new piece of wood that it was. Using a hammer, I used both sides to create dents and marks that marked up the wood, again to make it look reclaimed. I sanded the wood using an orbital saw until there was no splinters or visible pieces of raw wood. After wiping the piece down after sanding, I stained it with a coat of stain. I can't remember what the shade was, but I'll put it in the notes for you. I couldn't find my husband's wood glue, so I used the contact cement that I had. I placed the contact cement along the edges of both pieces of wood and then stuck it together. When I placed the pieces of wood together, I used a clamp to keep it nice and tight until it dried. While I was building this box, I took the two small edge pieces and put them in the middle so that I would have some extra leverage in the middle of the box. I purchased floating shelf brackets from Amazon, and that's what I used on my wall to hold my mantle in place. And ta-da! There we have our peel and stick wallpaper, our reclaimed wood mantle, and wall-mounted fireplace. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this video and DIY tutorial for a fireplace feature wall. Overall, I'm really happy with the way that the wall turned out. Some of the things that I would have done differently. I would have taken the fireplace off the wall. As you saw in the video, I tried to go around the fireplace and it made it really difficult to get the paper perfectly smooth on the wall. There's a few little kinks around the fireplace area that didn't turn out perfectly. It's pretty hidden because of the pattern of the wallpaper, but it's still something that if I would have just taken the fireplace off the wall in the first place, it wouldn't have been an issue. The other thing I would have done differently when building the mantel was to not use a circular saw. The circular saw makes it really hard to get a super straight line, and though I came pretty close, I ended up having to use a jigsaw just to straighten out that little bit of line on the two end pieces. Rather than using a circular saw, I would have taken the extra effort to get our table saw out, which would have ensured a straight cut. The other thing I would have done differently was I would have been more mindful about what I wanted the front of the mantel to look like. So while I knew the whole time what the front piece was going to be, I wasn't mindful of how it was actually going to look on the wall. So instead of putting the side pieces perpendicular on the inside of the front piece, I put them on the top edges, which made two extra seams on the top and bottom of the front. So if I would have done it again, I would have put those on the inside, which would have been one seamless piece of wood. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I don't think that you can notice on the wall that those two extra pieces are there, or those two extra seams, but it's still something I would have been more mindful about if I was doing it again. One of the other tips I wanted to tell you was that as you see in the video, all I did was put the mantel on top of the brackets on the wall. Those are just floating shelf brackets that I got from Amazon. And for some reason, once I put stuff on top of the mantel, it started to fall off the wall. So to solve that problem, what I did was actually take some of that contact cement, I put it on the top of the brackets and then on the underside of the mantel, so that now the mantel is actually connected to the brackets. And fingers crossed, I haven't had any issues with it yet. It's not a step that you have to do, but if it's something that you're having a problem with, or you just want to make sure it's extra secure, you could definitely do that too. It does make it a little bit harder to get off the wall. It's not as removable, but all you have to do is put a little force into getting it off the brackets, and then the brackets will easily come off the wall. Well, that is it. Overall, I am so happy with the way the wall turned out. It is so cozy and so nice in there, and I really love the way that it feels and looks and makes it feel like home, even though it's a rental. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and give us a thumbs up. The more thumbs up you give us, the more direction we know on what kind of content to create next. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments or reach out to me by email, which you can find on my website. My baby is crying, so I do have to go, but please tell us if you like this video. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out.